Not only do we have to consider how businesses compete, but we have to understand why they compete. If, for example, we're in a downturn economy, then competition will hot up considerably. If stock is slow moving for whatever reason, it might be timing differences, it might be economic reasons, it might be popularity, then people will reduce pricing to compete to move the stock. If a business has cash flow problems, they will try and sell the stock to generate cash flow. The challenge with that is they will potentially wipe out their cash profitability. Biggest danger comes when new entrants come in, because with one or two rare exceptions, a new entrant entering an industry creates competition. So, having understood why businesses are competing, let's try and understand the risks that come from new entrants. If you're a new entrant and you have a differentiated product, it's different to other people's products, then it's easy to enter the market, provided, of course, there is demand by the off-takers for those products. If you've got capital as opposed to debt, it's much easier to enter a marketplace because your cost levels will be much lower because you don't have debt to service. A business that has distribution channels can very often expand into selling other similar type products or even distributing different type products. An example of this was a Coca-Cola distributor who was able to distribute nuts and potato crisps and made a greater level of profitability from the nuts and crisps than they did from their Coke sales. However, without the Coke distribution, they would not have been calling at the outlets. They could have sold their nuts and crisps. Government policy can bring in new entrants, can stop new entrants. And at some stages in most parts of the world, the governments change policy sometimes overnight. And it might also be government policy in other countries if you're exporting. So if Uganda opens up their doors to Kenyan business or Tanzanian business or Rwandese business through reducing perhaps tariffs and quotas, and then that will attract a new entrant into the marketplace. So understanding new entrants, looking at the new entrants and how a new entrant would actually enter the market. Ask yourself the question, why would a new entrant enter the industry? If the industry is profitable, perhaps. If the industry is growing, yes, that definitely attracts new entrants. If there is unfulfilled demand, because remember, business is about future demand. So if existing demand is greater than existing supply, almost by definition, we will receive new entrants. If you're entering with a competitive advantage, you've got low cost, maybe because you're not renting premises, you own the premises. You've got branding that other people don't have, or you've got location. Key areas for a lot of SMEs which they can enter into an industry. And the one that I am usually use in Kenya is the migration syndrome. My brother entered the industry, so I will. So looking at why people enter the industry, and looking at how they affect the future. Because competitive positioning, a very competitive industry, new entrants will have an effect on future sales. If we're not very competitive, sales are pretty predictable. But if you have competition or a new entrant, then sales are not predictable. Your costs may go up as you try to compete against other businesses by advertising perhaps, making offers and discounts, So there are lots of ways that costs will increase. Profitability. Ultimately, if sales and costs are affected, competition and new entrants can have an effect on the profitability of a business. Can affect the buyers. In a way, it's how does the existing business retain its existing customers? Where does it get them from? How do you maintain that customer base? And of course, all of that will affect the cash flows. So looking at how competition and new entrants are going to affect the business in the future and how it will be reflected in their cash flows. We're now going to do a quick quiz. Good luck.